Did you know that research shows self-confidence and self-sufficiency in children can lead to better social skills, academic achievement, and emotional resilience as they grow? Children who are nurtured in these qualities tend to handle life's challenges with greater ease, and they're often better prepared to pursue their dreams independently. But the path to nurturing these qualities isn't always clear-cut or easy. I was hit with this realization when I embarked on the journey of raising my own toddler. The goal sounded simple enough, but it turned out to be a maze of mistakes, doubts, and sometimes heartbreak. I had to push through my own fears, failures, and insecurities as a parent, and believe me, there were days when it felt almost impossible. There's this universal desire as a parent to protect your child from every possible hurt or disappointment. You want to shield them from the harshness of the world and give them a soft place to land. But I realized the weight of that mission one evening when my toddler looked up at me after a fall, tears streaming down their face, and I caught myself almost rushing in to pick them up immediately. My heart ached as I tried to encourage a different response, one that would build their inner strength instead of constantly rushing in to rescue. But even though I knew what I was supposed to do, every instinct in me wanted to pick them up and hold them tight, to shield them from every ache, every bruise, and every pain. Yet, the voice in my head kept telling me that raising a confident, self-sufficient child meant sometimes standing back and letting them handle things on their own. And so I stood there, my heart pounding, praying they'd find their strength without my constant intervention. It was such an incredibly hard thing to do. I felt like I was battling with every fiber of my being to hold back. I felt that in trying to build my toddler's confidence, I was losing bits of myself in the process. Then there were the small, everyday battles. Mornings where I watched as they struggled with their shoes, their face growing more frustrated, while I held my breath, resisting the urge to step in and fix it for them. I found myself silently chanting, end quote, "You can do it," end quote, but watching them struggle felt like torture. I questioned if letting them face these little struggles was too much, too soon. Every time I felt the sting of doubt and guilt, I wondered if I was pushing them too far, or if I was the problem for not stepping in. My mind would race with thoughts of, end quote, what if they remember this frustration? What if they grow to resent me, end quote? The weight of my fears was often crushing. The irony, though, was that the times when I did help, I'd feel just as much doubt, convinced I was somehow weakening them, taking away a small piece of their potential confidence. It felt like I was constantly stuck in this cycle of making the wrong choice no matter what I did. I wanted so desperately to do right by them, but it felt like I was fumbling through the dark. The judgment and comparison. Another tough part of this journey was the judgment. It came from everywhere, family members, other parents, even strangers. I could feel the eyes on me when I would pause instead of helping immediately, as if letting my child struggle a little meant I was a bad parent. Comments would be thrown around casually, things like, "Why aren't you helping?" or "Isn't that a bit harsh?" It was as though people expected a parent to constantly hover, to always be there to fix things and smooth out the bumps. But I knew I wanted my child to grow up confident, to believe in their abilities, to know that they could face challenges and conquer them, however small they may seem. I'd lie awake at night, rethinking every action, every decision. Each little choice felt monumental. Did I help too much today? Did I hold back too much? I agonized over the balance, wondering if I'd find it, or if every day would feel like a gamble where I was somehow always coming up short. And what made it worse was seeing other parents who seemed to navigate it all so easily. They seemed to have this perfect rhythm, always knowing when to help and when to step back. Meanwhile, I felt clumsy, stumbling my way through a fragile balance that seemed to shatter at the slightest misstep. Those small victories were like lifelines for me, pulling me out of the sea of self-doubt I was drowning in. They were moments that made me feel like I was on the right path, however hard and messy it felt. It was as though those little moments of success were proof that resilience was taking root, even if it didn't always show in the day-to-day struggles. The lingering questions. Yet, even with those moments, the questions lingered. The struggles didn't end, and my fear of failure as a parent didn't disappear. I constantly wondered if I was on the right path, if all this struggle would truly pay off for them in the long run. Each day brought a new challenge, a new set of decisions where I had to weigh my desire to nurture them against my instinct to protect them. And every choice left me feeling either guilty or doubtful. Some days it felt like an impossible journey, a constant tension that never let up. I was scared I'd somehow break their spirit or, worse, that they'd grow up questioning if I'd done enough for them. It was a battle between wanting to give them everything and knowing that sometimes, the best gift I could give was to let them stand on their own, even if that meant letting them fall. In the end, what I learned was that nurturing a child's confidence isn't about perfection. It's about being there, even in the mess of it all, even when I felt like I was failing. And while I still haven't found all the answers, I've come to realize that maybe it's okay not to have them all. Maybe, just maybe, the struggle itself is part of the journey, part of building the strength both my child and I will need along the way. As I moved through the journey, I began to realize that overcoming my own fears was as necessary as nurturing my child's confidence. The daily battles continued, but I knew I couldn't live in the constant worry of whether each decision was the right one. My first step toward change was to redefine my expectations. I stopped expecting perfection, both from my toddler and myself, and this mindset shift brought a subtle but essential calm. I reminded myself that mistakes are learning moments, and this was a lesson for both of us. Finding small, achievable goals. The first thing I did was to break down my expectations into smaller, manageable steps. Instead of expecting immediate independence, I encouraged small acts of self-sufficiency. I started with things that were simple yet gave my child a sense of achievement. Tasks like putting toys away after playtime, attempting to dress independently, or helping to pour milk into a cereal bowl. These small steps laid the foundation for confidence, and each success brought a smile that showed me we were moving in the right direction. As each task became easier, I felt a shift within me too. Slowly, I began to trust the process and felt less compelled to rush in to help. This change didn't happen overnight, though. It was a steady, sometimes slow progression, with setbacks along the way. Yet, every small accomplishment helped both of us feel stronger and more assured in the process. Each task mastered was another brick in the wall of confidence I wanted my toddler to build, and I was beginning to see it pay off. As we progressed, I realized the importance of setting clear boundaries and expectations. I started to communicate what I wanted my child to try independently in a way that was supportive rather than directive. Instead of saying, "You have to do this yourself," I would gently suggest, "Why don't you give it a try?" This small change in language made a big difference. It put the choice in my child's hands, allowing them to approach tasks at their own pace. And over time, I could see that my child was becoming more comfortable with taking on new responsibilities, knowing that my support was always nearby. Seeking guidance and finding support. Around this time, I sought the advice of a friend who worked in child development, sharing my struggles and doubts. Their insights reassured me that fostering self-sufficiency was not only valuable but essential, and they offered guidance on how to make the process smoother. I learned that patience wasn't just about waiting, but about finding joy in the learning process, both for myself and my toddler. They encouraged me to focus on positive reinforcement, praising the effort rather than just the success. My friend's advice was invaluable, and it felt good to know that others had faced the same struggles. But even with this support, there were still days when doubt crept in. There were times I questioned if I was pushing too hard or holding back too much. This process taught me to trust my instincts more, to recognize that the connection I had with my child was also a guiding force. Building resilience through routine and stability. Another step that proved helpful was establishing a stable routine. Children thrive on structure, and having consistent routines provided a framework where my toddler felt secure enough to explore new challenges. It started with small things, like having set times for meals and play, or a predictable bedtime routine. Within this stability, my toddler began to take more risks in a safe environment, trying new tasks with a confidence that surprised even me. The sense of stability allowed me to step back without feeling that my absence would create unnecessary stress for them. This routine also helped me understand the importance of consistency in my reactions. By consistently encouraging attempts and supporting my child through mistakes, I noticed that they began to trust the process as much as I did. It was incredible to watch as they started approaching challenges with a can-do attitude, even when they didn't succeed on the first try. I could see the seeds of resilience beginning to take root, and each day felt like we were making progress, allowing room for failure and growth. Perhaps the hardest lesson was learning to allow space for failure. Every parent wants their child to succeed, but I came to understand that true self-sufficiency comes from facing setbacks and persevering. This wasn't easy to accept, but I began to let my toddler experience the natural consequences of their actions within safe limits. If they dropped a toy, they'd have to pick it up. If they struggled with a task, I'd provide encouragement instead of intervention. These moments of struggle were uncomfortable for both of us, but they became opportunities for growth. There were days when the setbacks felt overwhelming. I would watch my child fumble, get frustrated, or even cry in their efforts. And on those days, I felt the sting of doubt return. But over time, I began to see how those little moments of struggle were essential stepping stones toward independence. I realized that each frustration was an opportunity for them to build patience, problem-solving skills, and determination. They were learning that not everything would come easily, but that didn't mean it was impossible. Watching this process unfold was incredibly rewarding, even as it tested my patience and resolve. One of the biggest realizations for me was that building confidence didn't mean removing every obstacle. Rather, it meant offering emotional support and encouragement through each challenge. I learned to celebrate effort over perfection, making it clear that trying was more important than succeeding. This shift made a difference in how my toddler approached tasks. They started to enjoy the process itself, becoming more willing to take on challenges without the fear of making mistakes. This change in mindset became the cornerstone of our journey toward building confidence and independence. I began using positive reinforcement as a regular practice, acknowledging every attempt, no matter the outcome. Phrases like, "I'm proud of you for trying," became part of our daily language. This approach helped lessen the fear of failure, both for my toddler and myself. I was no longer so afraid of them stumbling because I knew that each attempt, each effort, was bringing us closer to the goal of true self-sufficiency. The transformation over time, I began to see the transformation not only in my toddler but also within myself. I had learned to let go of some of my control, trusting that my child's journey toward self-sufficiency was unfolding just as it should. I could see that my toddler was growing in confidence, becoming more willing to try new things, and showing pride in their own accomplishments. Each small victory was a testament to the progress we'd made together, and I knew that the foundation we had built would serve them well as they continued to grow. And as for me, I felt a profound sense of relief and joy. I no longer felt the constant pressure to be the perfect parent, always there to fix every problem. Instead, I had come to understand that my role was to be a guide and a support, giving my child the space to grow into their own strengths and abilities. At the end of this journey, I realized that my approach to parenting had transformed entirely. The steps I took brought real change, but I couldn't have done it alone. The guidance I received, especially from valuable resources, was instrumental in helping me make sense of the challenges. One such resource was the book titled Committing to Nurturing Your Toddler's Confidence and Self-Sufficiency. This book became an essential part of my journey, providing practical advice and insights that felt tailored to my experiences. Through it, I found strategies that worked uniquely well for my child, and it helped me become more resilient in my parenting approach. If you're navigating a similar journey and feel lost in the process, I can't recommend this book enough. It was a lifeline for me during those challenging moments, offering a roadmap that was easy to follow yet profound in its impact. To get your own digital copy, visit LibriFFY.com. The link is in the description. The insights you'll find there could make all the difference, just as they did for me.